Okay, so we're diving into something pretty interesting today. You sent us this video, and it's entirely in Hebrew. And you mentioned there's this one specific point you made that we might not get. Now, my Hebrew is, well, non-existent, but we've got a transcript and an expert to help us unpack your commentary, especially when it comes to your thoughts on Hebrew dubbing choices, those passionate opinions you shared. Speaking of experts, we have one right here with us. An expert in all things animation. Welcome to the deep dive. Always great to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's fascinating to see this level of passion in the transcript. It's clear that these dubbing choices are more than just casual observations. There's something deeper going on here.
Absolutely. The video is all about Hebrew dubbing in anime. You really dig into what you see as mismatches between the voices and the characters, especially in shows like Beyblade Burst, Inazuma 11, and Yu-Gi-Oh! You even name specific voice actors and characters, like how the voice of Sho in Beyblade Burst just doesn't feel right for the character. And then there's the frustration with changing voice actors for Walt in Beyblade. You definitely don't hold back.
It's interesting because it goes beyond just personal preference. You make a powerful analogy comparing finding the right voice for a character to needing the right organ for a transplant. That's how crucial you see this matching process. And it makes me think about how these seemingly small choices in dubbing can have a huge impact on how the audience connects with the story and the characters.
Right, it's not just about translating the words, it's about translating the essence of the character. Which brings us to another interesting point. You advocate for voice actors having more control over the roles they take on, citing Meron Aharonovic's choosing to voice Samurai Shigami in Beyblade Metal Fusion as a positive example.
That raises the question of how much agency voice actors actually have in the industry. It probably varies depending on the actor's experience and reputation. Established actors with the distinctive voice might get more say in choosing projects that align with their style. But for newer voice actors, they're often at the mercy of casting directors and producers.
It makes you think about the whole concept of vocal typecasting, too. How certain voices become synonymous with specific character types, which can be great for creating a recognizable brand, but it could also limit an actor's ability to branch out and try new things. It's a double-edged sword.
Definitely. And it speaks to a broader tension in the entertainment industry between fulfilling audience expectations and fostering artistic growth. Sometimes playing against type can be a brilliant move, both for the actor and the project.
Now get this, you really get fired up about gender swapping and localization. You bring up Miles from Inazuma 11 as a prime example, and argue that it's particularly harmful in media aimed at children.
Gender swapping in dubbing has a long and complicated history. Some of it stems from censorship, trying to align the content with the perceived values of the target audience. Other times, it's a marketing strategy, trying to broaden the appeal of a show to a particular demographic. But you're right, the ethical implications are significant, especially when we're talking about content designed for younger viewers. It can reinforce harmful stereotypes and limit representation for both boys and girls.
And this concern about staying true to the original material extends beyond gender. You also express disappointment when English dubs change storylines or censor content from the original Japanese versions, specifically calling out Yu-Gi-Oh!, GX, and Sailor Moon. What's interesting to me is that you seem to long for that authenticity, for a faithful adaptation that respects the creator's vision.
Right, and that speaks to the inherent challenge of localization. You're trying to bridge cultural gaps and make content resonate with a new audience. But where do you draw the line? Is there a point where adaptation becomes distortion? And is there a growing demand, as audiences become more globally connected, for less localized and more authentic versions? These are questions that the industry is grappling with more and more.
And these reactions really highlight how deeply connected you are to these shows, likely from your childhood. Your critique of the dubbing choices feels like a desire for the Hebrew versions to have the same impact as the originals. It's almost like you're trying to recapture a feeling, a sense of connection to something that was important to you growing up.
It's the power of nostalgia, right? Those early experiences with media, especially during our formative years, can leave such a powerful imprint on us. They shape our tastes, our expectations, and even how we connect with stories and characters later in life.
And speaking of connecting, this is where we need your help, listener. You mentioned that there's a point in the video we might not understand. Something specific you said.
Yeah, it seems like we're dealing with more than just, liking or disliking a voice. It's about how those voices shape our whole experience of the story, and whether they resonate with our personal connection to these characters.
Exactly. And you mentioned there's this point in the video Something specific that you said that we might not understand. Can you give us a little more context?
Well, looking at the transcript, it seems like you're talking about a particular voice actor, maybe Meron Aharonovic, and possibly some insights you got from interacting with them on Facebook. Am I on the right track?
You got it. That's exactly what I was talking about. And it's actually a pretty key piece of the puzzle here. The transcript doesn't really make it clear what was said in that interaction. And it's super important because it relates to how voice actors choose their roles.
That is really interesting, especially since earlier you were praising Meron Aharonovic for choosing to voice Samuru Shigami in Beyblade Metal Fusion. So if we can understand what you learned from that Facebook interaction, it might shed some light on Meron's overall approach to voice acting.
Exactly. Like, do they have certain criteria for the types of roles they're drawn to?
Yeah.
Certain character archetypes or vocal qualities they prefer?
This actually ties back into what we were discussing earlier about vocal typecasting.
Hmm.
Sometimes actors become so associated with specific types of characters, and it can be tough to break out of that mold. So it would be fascinating to see if Meron's Facebook comments reveal any insights into how they navigate those expectations.
And you mentioned that established actors with a distinctive voice might have more say in choosing projects. Well, Meron Aharonovic definitely fits that description. Their voice is so recognizable, especially in those anime dubs.
Absolutely. They've become a familiar voice for a whole generation of anime fans in the Hebrew-speaking world, so their perspective on choosing roles and crafting performances carries a lot of weight.
Okay, so we've established that this mystery interaction is pretty crucial. But the transcript gets a bit fuzzy here. We're not quite sure what you learned from Meron. Can you help us out? Was it something about their process, maybe a specific character they enjoyed voicing, or a challenge they faced?
Yeah. Any clues about what stood out to you in that conversation would be incredibly helpful. It could reveal a whole new layer of meaning to your critique.
We're all ears, listener. This is like a detective case. And we need your insight to crack it wide open. This seemingly small detail could be the key to understanding your whole perspective on Hebrew dubbing.
And it might even give us a glimpse into the world of voice acting in general, the decisions actors make, the creative challenges they face, and the impact they have on how we experience stories.
And it's not just about Meron. This is about getting a deeper understanding of what makes a dub truly great, what makes those voices resonate with audiences, and why you feel so passionately about these choices.
Speaking of passionate critiques, there's another point in the video where you have some strong opinions about a particular voice actress. Now, you don't mention her by name, but you do reference a few of her roles. You mentioned she has this incredible range. You highlight her work as Ginger from Beyblade and Nelly from Inazuma 11. Just to give our listeners some context, Beyblade's all about these spinning tops that battle. And Ginger's this cool, collected character who manages a team. Then you have Inazuma 11, a soccer anime, where Nelly's the super sweet and supportive manager for one of the teams. Two totally different characters, and this actress nailed them both.
Exactly. It's like she can jump between these diverse personalities so effortlessly, which makes it even more intriguing that there's this one character you didn't connect with her performance in. And this is where things get a little mysterious, because you don't actually name the character.
Right, you just compare this mystery character to one of her previous roles, and the contrast seems to really bother you. It's almost like you're saying, wait, this is the same voice actress. How could she sound so different?
It's like you're picking up on something that most people wouldn't even notice. And this discrepancy, this unexpected shift in her vocal delivery, is what throws you off.
Which makes me think about the complexities of voice direction in dubbing. Was this a deliberate choice by the director to have the actress use a different vocal style for this character? Or was it the actress's own interpretation of the role that led to this departure from her usual approach?
That's a great point. It makes you wonder how much creative freedom voice actors have in these situations. Do they collaborate closely with the director to define the voice? Or are they given more leeway to experiment and find their own interpretation?
It probably varies from project to project. But it would be fascinating to know what factors contributed to this particular performance, and this is where you come in, listener.
Right. If you could shed some light on who this character is, maybe even a little context about their personality or role in the story, it would be incredibly helpful. That one piece of information could unlock a whole new level of understanding about your perspective and about the art of Hebrew voice acting.
Yeah, it could also reveal some insights into how certain voice actors are perceived in the Hebrew dubbing world. Are there any unwritten rules or expectations about which actors are best suited for certain types of roles? Do audiences expect consistency across performances? Or is there an appreciation for versatility?
So tell us, listener, Who is this character that challenged your expectations? What about their voice or performance felt so different from the actress's previous work? All right, let's take a step back and recap what we've learned today. Even though we don't speak Hebrew, we've delved into some fascinating aspects of dubbing and localization, all thanks to your insights. We've explored the passion behind critiques, the importance of voice matching, the complexities of artistic choices, and the power of nostalgia. And we've uncovered some compelling questions about voice actor agency, typecasting, and the delicate balance between adaptation and authenticity.
What really stood out to me is just how much of an impact voices have on our experience of a story. It's not just about the words, it's about capturing the essence of a character, forging a connection with the audience.
Absolutely, and your critique really highlighted how much thought and emotion goes into these dubbing choices. It's clearly not just about preference. It's about how these voices shape our understanding of the characters
Yeah.
and our overall engagement with the story.
And that brings us to our final thought for our listeners. Think about your own most memorable dubbing experiences, both the good and the bad. What makes a voice truly unforgettable? Is it the tone, the delivery, the emotional resonance, something else entirely? How do these voices shape the way we see characters and stories? We'd love to hear what you think.